and the days that I keep my gratitude higher than my expectations. Well, I have really good days.
Thanks for clicking in. Howdy everybody, how are you doing? I hope you're doing wonderful. As I'm doing this 31 videos in 31 days challenge, some of these videos are going to be a little shorter, including this one hopefully. But we know how that goes sometimes. I'm going to cover two stories in this one and not fade off into any other ones. The first one, I don't see being covered by any crypto channel, so this may be the first time that you've heard or seen what I'm going to share with you here. And the second one, well, the second one some of us have seen way too much of, but interesting nonetheless. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We already know about Michael Novagratz and his relationship with Tether and Bitfinex. It's well documented. But this was on Tucker Carlson week before last while I was out on the road. And I don't think a lot of people saw it. So here, let me just cut into it.
If they gave the gunman what he deserved. So they didn't give him what they deserved because they were intimidated by the mob. They let BLM control the justice system in Louisville, which is to say control society. What are the consequences of allowing that? Well, the consequences are profound, and they will last far longer than the rioting itself. Normal people don't want to live in places where BLM is in charge, places where the streets are blocked by angry nihilists dressed in black, places where families are threatened just for eating in restaurants. We've seen a lot of that. Places where would-be assassins who shoot the police aren't really punished for it. Normal people flee cities like that. Around the country they have, in huge numbers. When they leave, they take the tax base with them. So the effects of a few days of rioting can last for decades. We've seen that in city after city over half a century. Detroit is still not recovered from 1967. And it's happening again. So just last week, Louisville was a perfectly nice city. Tonight, it's in long-term trouble. The mob destroyed far more than a few storefronts downtown. So the rest of us should understand how this is happening, who's abetting it. Last night we told you about an organization called the Bail Project. The Bail Project sends money to rioters and other violent criminals to help get them back on the streets as quickly as possible. The Bail Project, as much as any other group, is funding the violence we've been watching for the past few months. 2 nights ago, an organizer for the Bail Project was arrested by police in Louisville for rioting. Another Bail Project employee, a woman called Holly Zoller, was caught renting a U-Haul truck to bring riot supplies into the city of Louisville. So the Bail Project is funding the riots that are destroying our cities. The question is, who is funding the Bail Project? Well, we've been looking at that. British billionaire Richard Branson sends money to the Bail Project. So does New York music industry executive Jason Flom. But according to published documents, the single biggest donor to the Bail Project is the chairman of its board, a former hedge fund manager and cryptocurrency trader called Michael Novagratz. At times, Novagratz has been one of the richest people in the United States. We mentioned him by name on last night's show. He runs the board. Almost immediately after we did that, Novagratz sent us a message on Twitter, quote, "Would love to come on your show and discuss the great work that the Bail Project does." Well, of course, we accepted that request immediately. We wanted to hear his side of the story. We always do want to hear the other side. So we planned for that tonight. We're going to open our show with an interview with Michael Novagratz. But then just a few hours ago, shortly before airtime, Novagratz apparently panicked. Suddenly he didn't want to talk about the great work the Bail Project does. He was afraid, and so he backed out. Michael Novagratz will not be joining us tonight. But we still think it's worth knowing what he has been doing. In the past 2 years, the Bail Project has paid more than $26 million in bail for suspected criminals. The group says it has bailed out more than 12,000 people from jails. So who are the people they bailed out? Well, they're people like Samuel Lee Scott of the city of Chicago. Scott was in jail facing assault charges for punching his wife. After he hit her, reportedly he said, quote, "I might as well finish the job since you're going to contact the police." So he was in jail, and then the Bail Project came to the rescue. They sprung him. Hours after Novagratz's group did that, Scott allegedly beat his wife to death. We wish Michael Novagratz were here tonight to tell us what he thinks of that. Does he regret making it possible for Samuel Lee Scott to murder his wife? We'd love to know that. If Novagratz were here, we'd also ask him about a man called Christopher Stewart. He's also from Chicago. Stewart's ex-girlfriend got a protection order against him after he fired a pistol at her son's 6th birthday party. "I should pop you right now," he apparently said to her. He went to jail. Michael Novagratz's group got him out of jail. And then Stewart allegedly proceeded to set his ex-girlfriend's house on fire. Police had to rescue her from her burning home as she dangled from her kitchen window. Once he was put back in the Cook County Jail, Stewart knew who to thank for his good fortune. He thanked the Bail Project for their help. The Bail Project, he said, was, quote, the best thing that ever happened to me. His ex-girlfriend was probably less enthusiastic about it. The Bail Project also bailed out a man called Kenneth King after he was booked for allegedly assaulting a woman. See a theme here? A lot of people hurting women getting bailed out by Michael Novagratz. But they bailed him out again when he committed larceny. Twice, at least. Then they bailed out a man called Matthew Richardson after police say he tried to blow up a car in the parking lot of the Pentagon. They helped a man called Vic Sean Blockton pay his $2,500 bail after he was picked up on a first-degree robbery charge. Months later, Blockton was arrested again for armed robbery, etc., etc. There are many cases like this. How many are there? Well, the Bail Project won't tell us. Probably they don't keep track. Why do they care what the consequences of what they do are? They don't. People like Michael Novagratz don't live anywhere near the neighborhoods these policies destroy. When the Bail Project got Mario Young out of prison on a weapons charge, they told him they would help him find a job. They give him a state ID card. But they didn't. Quote, it never happened, Young said. A few weeks later, Young was back in jail on cocaine trafficking charges. You shouldn't be surprised. Violent felons released on bail go on to reoffend at extremely high rates. What's the left's solution to that? Well, stop prosecuting them for the crimes they commit. Legalize it. Then no one goes to jail. Novagratz agrees. For example, he gave a big donation to a DA candidate in Queens called Tiffany Caban. Novagratz doesn't live in Queens. He has homes in the safest neighborhoods in America, of course. He could afford to support Caban because he doesn't have to live with the consequences of her ideas. Caban ran on decriminalizing drug use and prostitution and other, quote, crimes of poverty, as if poverty forces people to commit crime. What a patronizing absurdity that is. But all of this is fine with Michael Novagratz. There are never going to be pimps and junkies outside his family's house. He gets to pose as a progressive activist by doing this. And critically, this is the point, by funding the Bail Project and groups like it, he and progressives like him buy immunity from the obvious questions that actual journalists might ask them otherwise. Questions like, how exactly did you make billions of dollars?
So he's a bad guy and not a face that we need out there for crypto. And it's a shame that he is one of the faces that's out there. Now, before any of you try to turn this political and go, hey, riots and Black Lives Matter, make sure that you understand something, that zero of those incidents that were just shown in that clip, none of those arrests originated at a protest or at a riot. Sadly, in a couple of those cases, the original police call was for domestic abuse. So I've been out on the highway, been out on the byways, seen a lot of things. Pretty much have decided that I can pretty much tell you just by observing your opinions and actions on this whole COVID thing. I can pretty much tell, in most cases, what political lean that you have, and that's cool either way, I don't care. But I can also generally tell you what state you live in and what news you watch, just by watching you out there on the road. More than once did I pass people on the highway, driving on the highway, wearing their mask, out jogging with their dogs, wearing their mask. Only people on the beach out there wearing their mask. Some people are just scared to death. Now, my buddy and I saw this out in California. I asked Tyler about it because I couldn't believe what I saw, and evidently there's one in his hometown as well. But check out the propaganda machine. Now, also keep in mind here real quick before I show you this, the majority of the time when these are brought in, it's a problem crime area, and they're using it to keep a camera bird's eye view on the parking lot, not necessarily to spread their COVIDicity fears to you. But check out what we saw here. So for those of you living in normal parts of the world and wondering why some people in some parts of the world are freaking out, it's because when they pull into Walmart, they got a stupid propaganda machine right here. Here we go.
Thank you for shopping at your local Walmart. We know it can be a difficult time, and we're working hard to make everyday life a little easier for you. As a reminder, we've adjusted our store hours. to make it easier for associates to stock and perform enhanced cleaning and sanitizing across the store. Please remember to wash your hands often for at least 20 seconds. Stay home if you're sick, and practice good social distancing of at least 6 feet when possible. To make that easier, we're limiting the number of shoppers inside the store. Associates and signs will direct you. Loitering inside or outside the store is strictly prohibited. Thank you for choosing Walmart.
Wear clean underwear.
Wear clean underwear. Always wear clean
And
underwear.
look at the side of the thing. It's called Lot Cop.
And let a propaganda machine in a parking lot scare the living shit out of you.
Have fun.
Idiots. No wonder so many people are freaked out.
You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kinney.
You now have 15 seconds to comply. You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113, Section 9. You now have 5 seconds to comply. 4, 3, 2, 1. I am now authorizing your physical force.
And then on Friday, the president and the first lady announced that they had both tested positive for the creeping crud. And the mainstream media spent the next few days over the weekend telling us how our morbidly obese president was 80% odds up on dying over the weekend. And you could collectively hear them banging their heads against the walls this afternoon as he walked out of the hospital under his own power, waved to the audience, got into his SUV, and went back to the White House. This is one of their worst dreams realized. Oh my gosh, how are we supposed to scare people if this old heavy guy walks out of the hospital after 3 days? Look guys, the median age for Rona-related deaths in this country is 78 years old. And 78 years old is also the life expectancy for all people in this country, Rona or not related. Fact is, it is dangerous to be an older person and be exposed to the Rona. However, it's dangerous to be an older person in this country, in this world, period. The media doesn't know what to do now except insult him because they don't like him, but this isn't about the president. This is about you and your family. But because this is an election year, the media's only goal is to try to scare you into a frothy haze so that you don't think or see clearly. The Rona scare and these race riot scares will soon go the way of the Me Too movement because they're not real. They're manufactured for a reason, and it all has to do with the election coming up soon. So you guys make sure that you vote. No matter who you vote for, go out there and vote, and we'll talk to you later.